Awesome. All right. Let's take a look here
Okay.
at Warrior's Journey. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually a certified yoga instructor.
I didn't know
I don't know
that.
if I ever, I don't know
What
if I
kind of
ever shared that.
certification? No. Maybe
Uh,
you
a
did. I don't know.
Vinyasa,
Oh,
200 hour.
okay.
So in that time, as I was developing the first iteration of the Warriors Weekend and all that
Yeah.
material, I was also becoming a certified yoga instructor.
Whoa.
And
Okay.
there's all of these concepts in yoga about um, attachments and about
Okay.
challenges that we face and illusions that we experience and ignorance that we have, and it's all put in Sanskrit, and
Oh,
no
okay.
one no one had put it on a piece of paper in the way that I did, or I'll show you, because there's
Okay.
different things that go together. There's principles and there's practices and there's ethics. So there's
Okay.
ways that we should behave, there are principles that we live by, and then there are daily practices. And I sort of started to see this map in my head of what happens to a human being that's leveling up, and what's
Oh,
happening to a
interesting.
man
Okay.
that's
Okay.
going through this journey. So
Yeah.
I'll share it with you. I'll share, and I just want to get your feedback on like where you see you are and where you see men are, and how this might apply to an area of your life.
Okay.
So we're going to go from the bottom to the top.
Okay.
So it's kind of building towards, and while it's obviously linear and progressive, it doesn't
Right.
mean that you're not in multiple places at
Well, yeah.
once.
Okay. Okay.
But fundamentally, we're starting with this idea of ignorance. You don't see things the way they
Sure.
are.
Yeah.
And there's this illusion or story you have about yourself. That's like the foundation level. That's where 90% of the population is.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Don't
Yeah.
see things the way they are, living in ignorance,
Yeah.
and they're living in stories. And there's a journey or a progression all the way up to what in yoga
Oh,
we
yeah.
call bliss or enlightenment, or to the
Okay.
real you that transcends your body, it transcends your mind, it transcends your emotions, and you really start to see that you are part of a whole. But there's like layers that I've
Sure. Yeah.
seen, that I've gone through to get to touch those experiences. I can't say that I live in bliss or enlightenment. Uh, Otherwise, I might just like evaporate.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
I've noticed, like in different times in my life and in different areas of my life, I'm at different stages along this journey. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm getting like something I get really attached to drags me all the way down into not seeing things as they are. So, like when I'm
Got
on the
it.
phone with my ex wife and I'm like shouting at her,
Yeah.
that's not, I've gone all the way back down to not seeing things as
To
they
not seeing.
are,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
and
exactly.
not seeing her as a partner, not seeing
Right.
her as just another human being doing her best.
Right.
So
Right.
I get pulled down into not seeing things as they are. And it can crash through all these levels.
Sure.
Um, so I'll build each one. And
Yeah.
as I'm explaining it and distinguishing
Mm-hmm.
it, like either think of an area of your life that
Mm-hmm.
you are that's relevant here, or
Mm-hmm.
at times in your life where
Mm-hmm.
you've been in this journey or where you are overall right now.
Yeah.
And there's three types of warriors that go along this journey.
Okay.
I know this is kind of vertical, so it might be hard to
No, no, it's all good. I'm actually on my phone. That's the only reason.
I'll send this to
So
you anyway. I'll give you a
yeah, no
PDF.
worries. It'll be fine.
But now I've zoomed in, so hopefully you can see
Yeah,
it a
yeah,
little
that's
bit more
great.
clearly.
Okay, I see. So
So we've got the awakened warrior.
okay.
We've got the man that goes from, okay, I'm no longer ignorant, to the fact that I'm ignorant. I at least know that I'm ignorant. I know that I
Right.
don't always see things the way they are. And
Yeah.
again, this is all, ancient yogic teaching, thousands
Okay.
of years old.
Okay.
There's ethics, principles, and practices. So if I'm working with a man,
Yeah.
I would just want to start here. Like, are we causing harm? Are we stealing or exploiting others?
Oh, interesting.
That those
Okay.
are the things we need to just look into.
Look at.
Like
Yep.
when I looked at my relationship with women,
Yeah.
was I stealing experiences from them? Was I
what does that mean? Can you expand? Like, I don't understand that part.
was I using my attachment to their bodies and my sexual desire and stealing an experience from them instead of giving
Oh,
an
interesting.
experience,
Yeah, yeah,
sharing an
yeah.
experience. It's
Yeah,
a
I love
very
that.
big yogic principle in
Okay.
not stealing.
Okay.
Is you don't steal experience from other people. You don't exploit other people for your own benefit.
Huh. Okay. I love that. Yep.
And if you're not doing that, you can't really get to higher levels. If you're stealing, exploiting, and causing harm, it's going to be difficult to
You're
get to
never gonna,
higher
yeah.
levels.
Okay.
So for each one of these levels, there's ethics, principles, and practices. Jose in the
Okay.
house.
Yeah, I saw he joined. That's great.
Yeah, we got Jose. Got Jose and Paul Michael. Um,
I do want to say that I'm going to jump in a meeting pretty soon, but they're running a little late, so I'm just going to
well,
try
listen in and see if this makes a difference for your meeting that you got coming up.
Yeah, go.
So there's ethics, principles, and practices. So again, if a man is willing to see that he's ignorant, or at least acknowledge that he's ignorant, we can start to work at this level. Principles include disciplining your mind, body, and emotions, and purifying your body, mind, and heart. So starting to introduce discipline and purity into the way you think, the way you act, what you put in your body. And a lot of this is basic, fundamental level of like, are you exercising? Are you eating right? What media are you consuming? Are you putting toxins in your body? Are you using your breath, or is your breath just totally getting away from you and you're getting anxious? So that's the energy of an awakened warrior, is working with these elements. Do you see anything there, Paul Michael?
Sure.
Anything you want to say?
Oh, well, I liked what you said about, I think you could, well, for me, it'd be extending it beyond relationships,
Oh yeah.
necessarily to like women, but I think relationships in general.
Yes.
You know, it also, yeah, that's what I would say to that. This also occurs to me as like a really juicy platform for the creative.
Oh
you know,
yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
like so many people in the, there's this kind of like fake it till you make it, which essentially is based on stealing work until you create enough of your own.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. But yeah,
absolutely.
I think there's a lot here. I didn't realize. I love what you've done with. I mean, I'm not a certified practitioner or teacher, but yeah, that's good.
I'll send this to you because on the next slide it has all of the Sanskrit for every single one of these. So what it actually is from. So each one of these warriors has a barrier that he has to break through. So if you find yourself in any one of these layers, there's a barrier you've got to get through. To get into an awakened warrior, you've got to admit that you're ignorant, that you don't always see things the way they are. The next barrier is avoiding challenging situations. If you constantly are avoiding difficult situations, you're basically going to stay at the awakened warrior level. You're not causing harm, you're not exploiting others, you're putting discipline into your life, and you're using your mind and body and energy in a healthy way. But if there are situations that you avoid because they're confronting to you, you're not going to get up to that next level. So each one of these has a layer to it. And again, the next layer is an impeccable warrior. And each one has ethics, principles, and practices.
Nice.
So an impeccable warrior retains and uses energy wisely. So I use relationships with women as an example, just because it's where I really saw it in practice, but it applies to any relationship in any area. If I might not be taking advantage of women. I might not be stealing experiences from them for my own gratification, but am I truly harnessing my sexual energy for good? Or am I just letting it all loose? Am I rubbing it out just because I'm stressed? Again, those are examples. It's the one that really hit me when I was taking these classes. Is the ethics of it and beginning to tell the truth and being someone who tells the truth. The principles are practicing contentment and studying and observing yourself and starting to study your own being. And that's where practices like meditation or focused concentration become in, eliminating distractions. So an impeccable warrior really is much more conscious about using his energy and embraces the journey of learning about himself and practices focused concentration by eliminating distractions.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I like that. I like the elimination aspect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the sense withdrawal. Like you're not
Huh.
as reactive to situations. Whereas before, if you were put in a challenging situation, you would react. Where
Right.
in the future, you gave a great example. Like when you were at parties and people asked you about your relationship with your wife, you weren't triggered. You were just
No.
very
Yeah.
matter of fact about it.
Yeah.
That's an example of not avoiding a challenging situation and being inside of this
Ah.
non-reactive state. So the next barrier is attachment to what is impermanent. So whatever you and I gather over our
Yeah.
lifetimes is not going with us wherever we go.
That's a really good point.
And whether that's accumulation of things, material things, relationships, money, it's all borrowed time and it's all
Right.
on loan. And this is, I think many men live successful lives in these two stages, an awakened warrior and impeccable warrior. You can live a great life in these areas, but if you don't take on this next challenge of really seeing that everything changes, everything eventually dies, everything eventually goes away, change is the only thing that is constant. And if you don't embrace that and live in that, you're not going to achieve higher levels of peace. Or there will still be times where you aren't peaceful in the constant torrent of life.
Right.
So that's where so those are the barriers you've basically got to work through. And it's my goal in the work I do with men and at the Warriors Weekend is
to
bust through the walls.
Right. Yeah.
It's like we bust through the walls, the brick walls,
Yeah.
and then you can then practice being either an awakened, impeccable, or humble warrior. So then we get to the third level, humble warrior. So you're not hoarding or grasping for anything. So you don't take more than you need. So in a lower level, you were using energy wisely to live your life, but now you're much more conscious about your impact on the world and on others. So you're not hoarding or grasping for anything. There's nothing, you start to loosen the attachments to anything really in life.
Yeah.
And none of this is better, good. It looks like, well, I should be going up, but it's really not that. It's really not that. It's just a way to think about where you are. None of these are better than the other. They're just different states that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, which I would like that. Yeah.
But this is where you get into more higher states of consciousness around connected to your capital S self or the universe, and you start to see that you're part of something bigger. An awakened warrior and even an impeccable warrior can really still have a self-centered life and still contribute to so many people with that self-centered life. But a humble warrior starts to see, I'm not really the center of anything here. I'm part of something bigger. And inside of relationships, you start to not, I started to not hoard or grasp on and hold on to a relationship looking a particular way. And I saw every relationship as something that was a teacher. Every relationship was a lesson. And that's like where you start to see that no matter, they're divine assignments.
I love that.
It's like this person has come into my life as and sometimes the most difficult ones, the most challenging ones, the most important divine assignments were given. Like, candidly, my relationship with my ex-wife is a divine assignment. We have a child together. We're inextricably linked. I can't get away from her. As much as like to. And that's something that I've got to constantly come back to, is that I'm not trying to grasp or hoard anything from that relationship. It's what can I give? So there's two barriers to get up to the ultimate level, which doesn't have a name because it's not even worth naming. It's just the eternal. It's that moment when you're rock climbing or you're out, doing yoga, or you're having sex, or you're cooking, and you just get lost in life and you kind of disappear. So there's not, I call that the real you. Like when you get so wrapped up in something, you just kind of disappear.
Yeah.
You're just not really there anymore. Like when I used to lead programs and when I led the Warriors weekend, it's like Ed as an identity all the way at the bottom of this chart isn't really present. I'm not present to my own ego.
Right.
I'm just in the moment. I kind of disappear into what I'm doing. And you can't separate Ed from what's being done. Whereas a lot of the time, I can kind of observe myself doing whatever I'm doing and having opinions about how do people think about me? How do I look? Are people going to like this? And then those moments of bliss where I'm just like gone, I'm just in the moment. That's, I call the real you. And there's some layers, the bigger layers of that to break through are attachments to the idea of an I. Like there is this thing called Ed. There is this thing called, this identity called Paul Michael.
Right.
Whereas from what I've studied, I can't find myself no matter where I look.
Right.
Everywhere I look, it's insufficient. If I look at my body, that's an insufficient definition of me. If I look at my thoughts, that's an insufficient definition of me, my emotions. And even the sum of it doesn't capture me because I change all the time. So this attachment to I, this attachment to ego is one of the ultimate barriers. And the final is that you even need to be here at all. Is attachment to life itself, like that you should even be here. And that's often where I think this is why people have radical transformations in their life when they're hit with hard circumstances, because they have to bust through all of these layers all at once. They have to admit that things change, and I'm not who I thought I was. And I've gotten down to what's really important. You hear people who get cancer and survive, or lose a loved one and get through it. And they realize that it's not all what they thought it was. And they like literally rocket ship through all four of these layers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Is this making sense?
Yeah, this is great. This is super clean.
Cool. I'm glad.
You know what I mean?
I'm glad it.
When did you make this? This was a while ago?
About a year ago.
Oh, so not so long ago.
This is great. It's just been like tucked away in a folder.
Yeah. Well, sure. I get that.
I had worked. Yeah, I wanted to do it where
I don't know. I don't know. It's really impactful.
I'm totally up for bringing it out. I just think I need to get a graphic designer to do a little bit better. It's kind of Mickey Mouse.
Well, it's fine. Mickey Mouse has a place.
Yeah,
but I hear you. Okay, yeah, I hear you.
These are all of the yogic principles. These are all of the.
Oh, I see.
If you were to study yoga, these are the principles from yoga.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so there's avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha. These are all the klishas. These are all the attachments. These attachments to ideas. So again, there's all these different principles, and I just basically tried to map them into my life. What opened up for you about either an area of your life or where you are in this journey overall, or any one of these levels?
Well, I think the short, what's immediately there is how simple it is, which I really like. Like, this is a map. I mean, I know it's not necessarily linear, but for me, it's really impactful how simple it is because, I think for a variety of reasons, one of which is I'm human. We overcomplicate shit. But what really came up for me, what I was thinking about when you were, especially towards the attachment to ego, attachment to life itself. Something I've been working with pretty much since I landed in LA is the amount of examples or the amount of proof that, image is valuable. And what I mean by that, like an on-the-court example, is one of the first conversations I had in my first office in LA, was the art director his fiance, he was having trouble finding work. And she said, well, honestly, paint your fingernails. And he's like, okay. So he painted his fingernails and he got work. And it took him a minute to figure out the reason he got it is because there was then an observed, assumption that he was not square. That there was something a little, I've heard, there's plenty of stories to back that up, right? Like the director on the reality show that I worked on, he had an import-export business. He moved to LA. He worked one job as a PA. He went out and rented a Lexus, drove to set, and was an associate producer, within 2 or 3 days. Now, what I'm interested in is not. I think there is a desire for men who don't ascribe to that in the industry, and I think that despite everyone saying to the contrary, that people who are authentic to themselves, whatever that looks like, kind of, to use your word, like, will skyrocket. That there will be. So that's very pertinent in my own life. I get power away all the time because I think, I don't know, there's the Queer Eye show and one of the characters wears bomber jackets all the time, and I was going to networking events, so I went and got a bomber jacket. I was like, wow, I've literally never worn a bomber jacket before in my life. Literally never done it. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with it, but I think the distinction there is not that is bad or shouldn't be fun, but that it should be fun and not like I have to do this thing to achieve this goal.
Well, yeah, when you're putting something on for other people, if it's not for you at the same time, then you may get things from it, like whether you paint your nails and you get a job because you're seen as a little bit eccentric, or you drive a Lexus on the set and you get an associate producer job. That's not even a problem. Like, go for it, even play that right. game even.
Sure.
But I think there's going to be a you that's living that life that's going to know it's somewhat of a fraud.
I agree.
Somewhat of a fraud.
Right.
And I think that's what then starts to feel synthetic and inauthentic when you meet people, and you really do meet people as this person is existing as their identity, as this identity they've constructed to say, look, they're all wearing their skin suits, they're all wearing their suits. Like, this is how I want to present myself to you, and you kind of need to like play with this like porcelain version of a human being, and then there's the real person behind there,
right?
And I think what you're talking about is how can I be successful in a world that values the porcelain mask?
Oh, that's really well put. Exactly.
How can I be successful when that's what people value? And at the same time, there are many examples where you pierce through that and you don't ignore it. You actually embrace it and go, I so am this. I just, you have to laugh at yourself, poke fun at yourself.
100%.
Like, look at me. I'm wearing bomber jackets because the Queer Eye guys do. Like,
totally. Which, by the way, I love my bomber jackets. They're gorgeous.
Exactly.
But I think, make it a game. And I think, it's all a mental exercise, right? And I think the other thing too is, having worked and been around, Chinese culture, I think they're also probably in any industry or any city, but there's an introspection, that the world's huge. This is not the only market. It certainly isn't the market of the future. It's losing power, not in a bad way, just to like, world changes. And I think there's an interest for me to participate both in work created and in environment created where it's just not so serious. Because I get it. Like, if you make a deal for $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, whatever, I get it from a monetary standpoint and a risk. The stakes are high. But to your point, like, okay, so if the deal goes south, I don't know how much currency is in circulation at the moment on the planet, but I guarantee it dwarfs $10 million.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a perspective that I'm interested in, like, cementing in my day to day.
And what is that perspective? And how does it
Well,
relate to what you're seeing here?
um, I would say, that the relation, the quickest way is the impermanence part, is that there is something very humorous to all of it. And I'm not saying that people on the planet don't have dire experiences or life-threatening experiences, but I think sometimes, I happen to work and live in one of the wealthiest countries on the planet ever, in probably one of the wealthiest cities.
At one
And
of
I
the healthiest and most progressive times in history.
totally, I mean, let's just you think about that, and I think, I don't know what it is innately, if it's an us thing, a phenomenon, or what, but there's this penchant to, like, lean negative, and I think, I'm interested in interrupting that, both in myself, but also for, like, the people I'm around, and the folks who see the creative content.
Yeah, we've never
You
been
know,
more healthy, more rich,
right,
more well off, more
right,
happy in our lives. And yet, like people rate their lives as more just as dissatisfied or even less
right,
satisfied than people in developed countries who have none of the comforts, none of the luxuries,
none,
none of what
yeah,
we have. And so
yeah,
that's a very clear evidence that it has nothing to do with the physicalness. It has nothing to do with the
I
things
agree,
you have. It has everything to do with the energy and the way that you're being about it.
yeah,
You go to these countries, and they have nothing.
yeah,
They don't know they have nothing. It doesn't even occur to them that they have nothing. They just
right,
have whatever they have. They have
yeah,
one pair of shoes and two shirts and one pair of pants, and that's what they have. They don't see themselves as lacking, but we have such a culture and an identity of lacking and of
right.
separateness that
That's
is
interesting culture.
is
Yeah,
robbing us of
yeah,
our connection to our lives.
yeah,
And I think that's particularly true with men who take on this game of ascension, or not even ascension, but just dominating their own life or
yeah,
controlling their own life to
yeah,
build some sort of empire that's all about them. And that wherever you go, there you are. You're going to have to live with yourself.
right.
And I think that's where there's an opportunity to really, yeah, if you can't poke fun at yourself and kind of get that it's all gonna change. Even the
Right,
suffering is impermanent.
right,
It's just constantly going to be evolving. Then you're not going to be I think you're not going to be as competitive. I think this is actually a competitive
I
edge,
love that about what, yeah, I agree.
because if
Well,
you
I
can then
agree,
be
since you
freed
said
up,
it. Yeah,
if you can be
exactly.
freed up and you can just play with it all, like then
Right,
you can do anything.
right, right,
That's when you can
right,
actually win the game.
right. Oh, yeah,
All the people that get so attached, like all these attachments, all these brick walls here, these are the things where people get way too serious. Like,
100%. Yeah,
that situation's really challenging, or this person really is that way, or I don't want this to change, or
yeah,
I need this to change. These are all barriers
yeah,
to being free.
yeah.
So I hope it's helpful. And again, I'll send it to you. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm one dude, but I can say for me, it's already, I mean, what, we've been talking about this for 30 minutes. It's already helpful.
cool. And yeah, you might find yourself like, okay, today I'm kind of like at this level.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you look at those three boxes and you go, okay, well, maybe I should be focusing on, meditation, or maybe I should focusing on
Mm-hmm.
eliminating distractions, or maybe I
Mm-hmm.
should, there's remedies or prescriptions basically at these levels.
Right.
Or like, hey, I really want to move up to the next level. Well, I can see that I'm attached to either avoiding this
Whatever it
challenging
is. Yeah.
situation, this challenging conversation, and that's keeping me from being impeccable.
You're right.
So
Right.
yeah, use it as a map to kind of go, okay, this is where I'm at right now. And then do I go to the right and look at how do I live that? Or do I
Right.
want to go up a level?
Right. Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad it was helpful.
Very.
Let's
Yeah.
chat just briefly about your Lifeline,
Sure.
and just the Lifeline in general. I think I have a blank one here.
Okay.
Um, I don't have anything filled out on it because I realized I need to do my Lifeline. I haven't done my own Lifeline. I haven't eaten my own dog food lately.
Yeah.
So I will be doing my own Lifeline,
Yeah.
and preparing it. But this is this is another way to look at, if you apply the warrior progression to your lifeline, like you could start to see, well, is there something new to see about an area of your life? But I wanted to ask you, since you've been doing it now for 2 months, is there anything you're
Right.
noticing about the relationship between areas of your life? Like as you work on one area, or if it improves, what happens to others? Or
Oh, for sure.
what have you been noticing, or what questions do you have about the relationship
Oh,
between different areas of your life, if any?
questions. I mean, I can just speak to observations I've had. I don't, I flat out do not believe any longer that we are able to compartmentalize.
Mm.
You know, like, you know, my parents, certainly at least my father's parents. I can't really speak to my mom's parents, but you know, everything was compartmentalized, right? And so you had this work persona, this work environment, and then you had this home persona, home environment, and maybe you had a mistress or an affair on the side environment, and it was all separate.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think that works to a certain level of performance. And I think, you know, if you start considering like something what I'm up to is optimizing my performance. And it became really clear when I was talking to my parents over the weekend that they're only going to hit any human being's only going to hit a certain level of performance if they refuse to or don't see access to mapping efforts in one area of life onto all areas, right? Because
Yes.
it's like an exponential. I do one thing, it has 5 impacts. I mean, that's just a way to optimize performance. So, you know, for me, like working on the relationship with Elizabeth has drastically affected relationships across the board. You know, working on, like Abby and I working on dream client list has impacted the way I approach all business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think what I would say to the Lifeline concept is that it's a way to it's an evolved way to optimize performance. And I don't know
if you can
you
put your
know,
thumb on one scale, then it's probably gonna
100%,
tip all the others. I mean, that's what I've
100%.
seen with the data. I mean, some
Yeah.
of the clients I have the longest, the most amount of
Yeah.
data. I have like 5 of those columns over. I basically have a year
Of
of
data.
Alex's data. And
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
crazy to see, like, it's never, if one area goes down, usually they're all going down.
Yep. Yep.
If one area ticks up, all of them are ticking up.
Yep.
You know, and there's a relationship between things like physical fitness, morning routine, sleep, and diet. All of those types of areas around health and well-being affect relationships, money, career,
Absolutely.
and vice versa. If career and money or relationships are going down, usually health and well-being goes down.
Yep.
And I've noticed that kind of, they all go together.
Yeah.
And I've known that, and you've known that, but it's interesting to see it in data. Like,
Yes, I agree.
how my life is going right now is
I
very
agree.
holistic.
Yes.
And if you want to impact all areas, like start with one that's really low, and see if you can get that, even just 25% better.
Right.
Is there an area right now on your Lifeline that you would say is, kind of lower, or just, whether it's on your Lifeline or not, but like an area you say matters to you that's like lower than you would like, or you're seeing that it's maybe dragging everything else down because it's not quite where it needs to be?
Yeah, actually, well, it's not an exact area, but something I'm really aware is that what I'm completely redefining is what it means to take risks, right? Because I'm not going to stop taking risks. Like, I'm not going to live my life. I'm just going to keep using my parents. I mean, everyone has an opinion, and because 100 people know about the situation, holistically, there's 100 people that have an opinion.
There's 200 opinions at least.
Right, exactly.
Everybody
Right,
got two opinions.
100%. You get them on a Wednesday, different opinion. Call them on a Thursday, you got something else. It's great. Keeps me on my toes. But I think, what I would say to that is my parents have lived their life extraordinarily conservatively, right? And so their perspective of the world is such that is the way to achieve a life of your dreams is that you have to wait and put in your time, right? Nothing wrong with it. They now have their dream life. They're 60. I'm not waiting that long. I'm not interested in it. It's not necessary. It's just no way. Like there's no reason to do that. But what I would say is that, like we were talking, like there's, taking risk is super important. I'm clear of that. What I'm interested in, and I think the Lifeline is the foundation, and the way to achieve this is to redefine what it means to take a risk, right? To like moving across country without the financial means to move across country is taking a risk, but it's a risk that doesn't make sense to optimize performance. For me at this time in my life, am I happy I did it? Yeah, absolutely. But I was in a very different place. So I would say, but to be on the court and have a specific example. Yeah. I mean, I'm still honing and creating a new space of communication for my parents, which is just to say a new space of communication for everyone. But, like, if my dad's not willing, like one of the things he asked me recently was, well, recently being within probably 3 months ago, is like, why do you need, like, I don't understand coaches. I don't understand, like, why do you need this? And then, my mom would chime in and say like, yeah, you have the best coach in your dad. And I'm like, yeah, except he's not willing to talk about this, all of which I face on a daily basis. So I love you, but like, I don't know what you want me to say to that. Like, just logically, if there's, let's see, 3 things right now I can think of that I need to talk about because I deal with them on a daily basis, not necessarily internally, but out in the world. And I'm not interested in I'm not interested in secluding myself from the world. I'm not interested in moving to a small town. I'm not interested into keeping my life to a level that, is manageable without coaches. But I think, to assert that there's this dream coach in my dad who I love and has a lot to offer. But then for him, like we mentioned, to turn around and say, I'm not willing to talk about this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to someone who dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would say that's an area.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, I think it's on the court because it's one of those areas that when that's solid, when your relationship with your father and parents is on solid footing, just like if you're in a powerful, intimate partnership with a woman, you can then also take more risk in life. You just feel like you've got solid relationships behind you and around you to go out and take risk.
Right.
And I think you do have that already. I think
I agree.
That you can always, like, you could come back to them fucking broken and they would love you.
Absolutely.
Like they would love you.
Doubt.
And that's a blessing. It's a huge blessing.
Yes, it is.
Because there are so many parents that, like, reject their children for either taking risk or not taking risk.
Right.
And whatever success or failure comes out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, on our future calls, we'll just continue to dive into Lifeline stuff. I just wanted to wrap up with Warriors weekend stuff. So site's now live, October 18th, 19th, and 20th. The tickets are currently 40% off. Yeah. So
I shared it with my head of post. So
cool.
Who, by the way, worked with Alex at Shareability.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You can see a picture of Alex right here doing the archery. Yeah. So I think
Alex
you took that
Alex's
photo.
Stuff. I think I did too, probably.
He'll be back to do archery, and we're gonna blow it out. I've got another archery trainer actually. I'll help
really?
too. The guy that gave us those bows and arrows to use.
Oh, fun! Yeah.
He's gonna come and do training as well. So we'll have 2 set stations set up. And Joey's coming back to do all the breath work and ice bath therapy. Scott's coming back to do combo. Great. We'll do more fire circles, more live music. Like it's just going to be even.
So bigger. It's the same band, really.
Yeah, exactly. The band's staying together, and there'll be some new elements. Or for those that return, there'll be new elephants. For many people, it'll be their first weekend, so they will just they'll just get the full dose of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's out there right now, and I'll reach out to all the men that have gone to the Warriors weekend.
Okay.
There's another special promo code for men that have gone to the Warriors weekend to take even more off of the current price.
Okay.
So even if you're going to come on staff, there might be other men that went that you're in touch with that might want to come and just take it again.
Yeah, please hit me with that link for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, that's all I had for formal time.
Okay.
We'll do more of these webinars and just get
Yeah, I think why
get
not,
together.
man? Yeah.